Hello everyone, it's Jamal Thomas. Welcome to the Progressive Soapbox. So I am seeing myself come up, and I'm going to take that as me being on, since I'm seeing myself moving, shaking. I have a few of these that I want to get to tonight. So I'm probably not going to take too many audience questions as I go through them, maybe one or two. Let's have some fun. I have to take this one on first because I find this one to be the most ridiculous. This is like dessert before supper. So Bernie Sanders being welcome to speak at the Women's March draws criticism. What? It draws criticism. I'm blown away by this. This is drawing criticism. This is Time magazine or Time Politics or whatever articles. The Women's March invited Bernie Sanders. Then the trouble started. What sort of trouble is this? He's the most popular senator on the planet. Why would there be trouble with inviting Bernie Sanders to speak at the Women's March? Let's dig into the article. Now, I am a cynical SOB at times, and this is one of those times where my cynical, whatever it is, flares, because it sounds like the most ridiculous story that I've ever heard. Now, or at the very least for that day. I'm suspicious of this. I'm suspicious of this for two reasons. I'm sorry to laugh at it because I find it so insanely ridiculous. Part of me wants to say, and it's not part of me, I'm just going to say it, fuck it. There are certain elements in the country, we tend to call them hillbots, but I'm not going to be politically divisive, so I'm not going to call them hillbots, but I will call them diehard Hillary supporters. I will call them Clintonites, I will call them neolibs, I will call them props of the establishment. Some people will call them useful idiots. But they feel a particular way that Bernie Sanders had to temerity to run against Hillary Clinton. I assume that these are the people who said it's a cold day in hell for a woman who voted for Hillary Clinton or didn't vote for Hillary Clinton. I'm assuming it's those types. Because I don't think anybody else in the country will give two shits about Bernie Sanders speaking at a women's conference or a women's rep march. But I could be wrong. I could be wrong. That's just the way it feels because the story seems so ridiculous to me. And when it feels ridiculous to me, I have to ask the question, why on earth would anybody have an issue with Bernie Sanders speaking at any march? I don't get this. This makes no sense to me. So I have to ask, what would be the motivations of people who would have issues with this? Hence, that's where I go. I read it. Let me read the story. When the Women's Convention announced Bernie Sanders will speak on the opening night of the national conference in Detroit later this month, the response on social media was swift and brutal. Many supporters of the group, which spearheaded the record-setting marches around the United States to protest President Donald Trump's inauguration in January, were outraged that the conference organizers would pick a white man to address a convention meant to elevate women of color. How is that not racist? How is that not racist? Are you shitting me? Many supporters of the group which spearheaded the record-setting marches, I'm sorry I have to read this again because this line is so fucking amazing, around the United States to protest Donald Trump's inauguration on January were outraged that the conference organizers would pick a white man to address a convention meant to elevate women of color. How dare they address this white man? Here's a question. Is it possible that that white man is actually fighting for your interests? Is it possible that the white man has been fighting for your interests for the past 20, 30, 40, 50 years? Is that true? To any measure, is that true? I just find this to be an amazing statement. You're excluding somebody, or you're bitching that somebody is being put up to address your conference because he's white and, God forbid, he's a man. It's fucking amazing. This is everything that's wrong with the Democratic Party. Honestly, no bullshit. This is everything that's wrong with the Democratic Party. You're excluding this guy because he's a white man. Or you're bitching about it. Oh man, that statement is amazing. I'm sorry, that statement is mind-blowing. How is this statement not mind-blowing to anybody but me? All right, I'm sorry. I'm wilding over this. I find it to be an amazing statement. Is he representing your interests? What the fuck does his color have to do with whether or not he's representing your interests? If that answer is yes, if by any honest measure that you're looking at what the guy represents, if that answer is yes, how are you excluding him from your conference? God damn, give him a woman's day card or something. But shit, recognize what the man has done and what he is, and don't exclude him based purely because he's a white man. I find that statement to be amazing. I'm sorry. Others were annoyed that Sanders, who recently endorsed the candidate for mayor of Nebraska, who had been criticized as anti-abortion, would be embraced by a movement that supports reproductive rights. I don't think it's those two. I think it's the last one. Others nursed the grudge against Sanders as his supporters for their role in Hillary Clinton's election defeat. That's the one. Ding, ding, ding. Others nursed a grudge against Sanders and his supporters for their role in Hillary Clinton's election defeat. It's that one. Take away the other two, because the other two sound ridiculous. It's that one. It's that one. Ding, ding. Ding, ding, ding. Ring the bell. It's that one. Let's stop pretending it's the other two. You may find one or two who says, I don't want this white man speaking at the conference. I don't think you're that petty. I'm taking that off the table. You may have some that says Sanders, supported this guy for anti-abortion rights. Fair enough. I wouldn't support the anti-abortion candidate. Fair enough. But is that enough for you to not support Sanders? And how many of those people actually knew? Take that shit off the table. We know what it is. Come on, it's the last one. It's the last one. All right, come on, it's the last one. I just don't think the other two are enough to get people. I don't think it gives them that. I think that's the thing that gets people saying, I don't want Sanders there. I think it's the last one. I think it's the last one. How dare that asshole run against Hillary Clinton? Dare he? How dare he? Hey, it's the last one. Now, they don't want to say that, and they would never say that, but it's the last one. I'm sorry. Until you prove to me otherwise. It's the fucking last one. On the surface, the hoopla may seem silly. It is silly. Not just on the surface. It is silly. Yes, you're being silly. You're being childish. It's silly. Be honest. On the surface, the hoopla may seem silly. Many of the critics were objecting to the misperception that the Vermont senator was headlining a women's conference. He isn't. The women's convention doesn't technically have a headliner, but its featured speaker is Representative Maxine Waters, a California Democrat who has called for Trump's impeachment. I love this. I absolutely love this. Now, here's the catch. This is the beautiful part of it, and this is perception. And this is the beauty of perception to some degree, or at the very least, you observing somebody else's perception of events, because it gives you this kind of idea on how they perceive the world to be, even though they would never tell you that that's how the world is from their perspective. Like, they would never be honest with you about that's how their world is. But there is no other way to get to that particular perception unless they have the view that that's how the world is. On the surface, the hoopla may seem silly. It is. Many of the critics were objecting to the misperception that Vermont senator was headlining a women's conference. Why would they have that misperception? Because it's Bernie fucking Sanders. He is the most popular senator in this country, the most popular politician. And if you're going to put him in an event, it doesn't matter who else is in the event. Bernie Sanders is at that event. Even people who look at him and say, "Oh, God damn it, I can't believe he ran against Hillary Clinton. Her magical vagina. She was going to do amazing things for this country." Even those people saw that and acknowledges that he's the most popular senator, because otherwise they would not have this particular perception. Fucking love it. You can tell me whatever you want to tell me what you think about Bernie Sanders. At the very least, from this perception, you acknowledge that he's the most popular senator in this country. Hands down. All of these Hillary supporters, mad and objecting, throwing their fists into the air. And at the same token, the very act that they're mad and throwing their fists in the air is indicative of how they perceive Bernie Sanders as being dominant in regards to politics. I love it. I love it. I love that. That's amazing. That's amazing. Jay Scott, do you realize half of your supporters hate Bernie Sanders right now? What do I have to do with half of my supporters? I have nothing. Look, my opinion has nothing to do with what my supporters do. Nothing. This is just my perspective of things. This is my opinion of things. Ultimately, I'm analyzing a story that's out with people bitching and moaning about Bernie Sanders at the women's conference. Now, I understand that there are some people who strongly disagree with the role Bernie Sanders took. I'm sorry. I'm laughing at the story. I'm laughing at the story. I'm not laughing at the comment. I'm laughing at the story. I had in my head, I have this image of all of these Hillary supporters gritting their teeth and, you know, shaking their fists at this guy. At the same token, the very act that they're angry that he's having this conversation, or angry that he was invited, shows there's to some degree how they perceive his stature in American politics, even though they don't want to own up to it. And just to put this in perspective, Bernie Sanders was like 2 of 42 speakers. It's like, it's 2 of 42. And they're complaining about the guy being at the thing. This has nothing to do with him being a man. This has nothing to do with supporting the other guy. This has everything to do with it being Bernie Sanders and him having a temerity run against Hillary Clinton. And Hillary Clinton loses to reality show hosts. And people looking at Bernie Sanders thinking to themselves, if Bernie Sanders would have ran, Bernie Sanders would have won. That's what this is about. Now, that being said, as Jay Scott said, do I understand that half of my supporters or half the people who watch me very greatly dislike Bernie Sanders right now? Yes. Do I care? No. Does it have anything to do with my perspective of this? No. God knows can take shots at me all he wants for the Bernie Sanders thing. Same progressive could be angry at Bernie Sanders. All those things are true. I don't care. Still like them both. It's just my opinion on this. Because I accept something that somewhat of a flat fact to be true. Whether you want to believe that Sanders is a sheep herder, whether you want to believe that Sanders had, you know, sold some kind of agreement with Clinton, all those things, whatever. It is a flat fact that there are a lot of people who are completely in the dark and completely asleep and completely just outright sheep, not paying attention to politics, not paying attention to what takes place around the world in their society, what the politicians are doing, etc., etc., etc. Those people didn't even know that there was a different question. If I'm getting that across, like, they ate their Cheerios, they played their Xbox, they bought their clothes from Old Navy, they went to school the way they were supposed to go to school, and for the most part, they thought that this is what life is. And they hear this guy who gets to the point of saying, look, what the Democratic Party is not the definitive left. There is a real left out there. We just aren't there yet. And for the most part, all media and all this other stuff is colluding to make you believe that this is the range of debate. Those people are full of shit. There's a different left. He woke people up. Like, I understand this argument, and I get it. People have heard me bitch and railed and moaned about the whole election thing, the line that was told on the election. So it's not that. It's the flat fact thing of, did he wake people up? And the answer is yes. Now, if you want to say he woke people up in order to get those people to vote for Democrats, yeah, he was a sheepdog. He has been a sheepdog. His capacity in this has been a sheepdog. But is it possible he believed something different? Like, this is deviating from the subject. And I said I wasn't necessarily going to go long in this video because I had a series of videos that I wanted to go through. But screw it. Is there any chance that he just completely fundamentally disagrees that this idea of a third party is viable? Is it possible, to any degree that's possible, that in his mindset, it's better to tear through the Democratic Party piece by piece in order to get something different? Meaning, I need to drag people into the party in order to pull this party in a different direction. Now, that's a strategy. Now, you can say that strategy is bogus. You can say that strategy doesn't work. You can say that strategy pulls people into the Democratic Party. But is it fair that that's just a strategy that you yourself may think is completely wrong? But who's to say that you're right? Now, that's the catch. This is the thing that I keep hitting my head on. Look, a lot of people, as people have these conversations, they take it as a flat fact, as if their strategy of things is the right strategy of things. This is what I believe, and God damn it, this is the word of God. Assume for the moment there's doubt. Assume for the moment that as a human being, there's doubt in what's going to take place based upon the actions that you yourself take. He could be wrong. You could be wrong. Doesn't mean that if I think you're wrong, that you're somehow, you know, a horrible person that's fucking people over. No, I just think you're wrong. I'm saying, to some degree, give the benefit of the doubt. Goddamn, that's all. That's all. Luca Clemente, actual proof of my psychic powers. Uh-oh. I don't know what his psychic powers were. Of course, he might disagree that third party is inviolable. It doesn't matter. He's wrong and is on a leash of people who oppose the kinds of changes he wants. That's brutal. It's not unfair. So let's keep going. Maybe being hoodwinked by Obama has something to do with it, Jamal. See, that's the funny part. Obama was my wake-up call. Like, yeah, Obama was my wake-up call. I saw a man get on stage and fervently push the Trans-Pacific Partnership. And then I went to read the Trans-Pacific Partnership. And what he said in no way corresponded to what was in that, whatever the fuck you want to call it. It's impossible. Like, it's one of those things of, if you're telling me the sky is blue and I look up and the sky is red, and you're saying, hey, are you going to believe me or your lying eyes? Goddamn Obama. Well, I'm going to believe my lying eyes because I don't believe my eyes are lying to me. Yeah, that was my wake-up call. Obama was my wake-up call. Rebel Cage Rattler. Uh-oh. What did Rebel Cage Rattler say? While I am confused about how I feel about Bernie, this is Rebel Cage Rattler. While I'm confused about how I feel about Bernie, I still absolutely love Bernie ideals he campaigned for. And for that, I am awake. And I am ready to do my part to end the oligarchy. Right there. It's right there. That's my point. Like, I understand the anger and the rage directed at Sanders. I get it. I do get it. Like, don't get me wrong. This is not one of those things where I'm downplaying it. You've seen me downplay stuff, or you've seen me make light of stuff. For instance, like this Woman's Day controversy. Yes, I'm joking the hell out of the Woman's Day controversy because I think it's absolutely absurd and ridiculous. And I get that people like, you know, Peter, whatever the hell his name is, I forget his last name, like to be antagonistic on Twitter and be an all-around douche. Now, so yes, I do joke people like that when I see stuff like this, because I honestly believe that the people who are enraged that Bernie Sanders was speaking at that rally, 95% of them were diehard Hillary supporters. It was like, how dare he running Hillary Clinton, how dare he? And then she turned around and lost. It had to have something to do with Bernie Sanders and 1,000 other factors that had nothing to do with Hillary Clinton. So yes, I joke that because I find that to be ridiculous. I don't think it's ridiculous, though, this anger that's directed at Sanders. I think it's slightly misplaced, but I don't think it's ridiculous. So, I'm not downplaying it. Is Bernie Sanders Batman? Is Bernie Sanders Batman? So, is this a Dark Knight? Yes, I know I'm casting him in epic terms. I don't mean to do it that way. I'm just trying to make a point. Is this Bernie Sanders talking to, what is it? The detective, I can't think of his name, Gordon. And he's like, they're gonna chase me. Let them chase me. Leave the site idle, or whatever. I can't think of it. I can't say it right because I don't remember all of the words. But ultimately, let them chase me and all this other stuff. Look, he went into a campaign. Let's take it as flat facts. It's flat facts. Now you can cast however you want, but at the very least, let's establish flat facts. Bernie Sanders comes out the wilderness, and I know it wasn't the actual wilderness, but for the most part, the political wilderness, with 3% of the vote, and enters into the presidential election as a Democrat. Up until that point, he was a socialist, as an independent, but he went in as a Democrat. He went into the campaign not believing he had any chance whatsoever of winning the campaign. So for the most part, he wanted to push Hillary Clinton to the left. He didn't find anyone else to do it, so he himself decided to do it. He goes from one state to the next, to the next, to the next. And as he goes from state to state, he's like, holy shit, this is catching fire. People are beginning to feel the burn. All right, fine, let's go, let's do it. In which case, his campaign becomes a little bit more boisterous and more boisterous and more boisterous. And at a certain point, despite having lost several states in the beginning, he thought to himself, I can win this thing. I think I have a chance of winning this thing. With this one constraint that he's had in his head, I don't want to be Ralph Nader. I don't think I have the chance to win this thing. At the very least, I don't want to lose for Hillary Clinton. I don't want to be Ralph Nader. So how my campaign is going to be run is going to be constrained by my own perceptions of things. His person. Like, I don't know what you expect of him other than being a person, because that's all. That's where my sympathy goes, in a sense. That's why I'm not as much of a hard ass as I see some other people are. I look at it as, what is a person to do? A person is going to behave as a person. I don't expect anything more from a person other than that person being a person. I'm not looking for this kind of super level of integrity or this foresight, Spider-Man, knowing what was going to take place. I think he accepted, holy shit, I'm catching fire, and I'm going to try to win this thing. Now, at a certain point, he couldn't win it. But he had pushed the conversation enough where he understood his heft, in the sense of saying, I am going to change fundamentally what the left means in this country. And I'm going to do it by attacking one issue after the next. And I'm going to be in the limelight to the degree that I can be in the limelight. And meaning, I'm going to punch every issue, meaning I'm going to hit one Democrat in the face after the next. Yes, I'm going to run people in primaries against them. They may lose, but I'm still going to do it. And yes, every time you look up on a Sunday show, every time you see a debate or something like that, it's going to be me, Bernie Sanders, on stage arguing with Republicans and Democrats about how to move things to the left. That's just a flat fact. That's literally what has been taking place since the time the election has ended to now. You see Hillary Clinton on a book tour screaming about what happened, breaking her ankle or whatever, hurt her ankle, they had to leave. I'm not laughing at that. I'm not laughing at that. Having to cut her book tour short due to an injury. I'll say it that way. I'll say it that way. But every time you look up, Bernie Sanders is debating Lindsey Graham. Bernie Sanders is debating, he didn't debate Paul Ryan, but he's debating all these people left and right. And he's arguing tooth and nail about Medicare for all in regards to health care. He's jumped the shark over whatever the Republicans were doing, going full into we need universal health care, and getting a bunch of Democrats online to do it. Now, in his mind, he looks at this from the standpoint of, I'm a senator, I'm an independent, we have a two-party system, and if anything needs to get done, I need to break what takes place with regards to the left. I need to push this dialogue forward, and I need to get the public on my side to do it. Whatever you want, doesn't matter what it is, it would have to translate into some kind of legislative victories. That's just brass tacks. I lost connection. Oh, okay, I'm back. Good. Yeah, that's Sanders' perspective of things, man. Like that, it's not. You can have vested interests with different points in that interest, if that makes sense. Like, you can want for the same things, but take this from a completely different perspective, depending upon where you are. From the perspective of Sanders, as a United States Senator, what do you expect him to do? 80-some years old. He's been in insane politics for God knows how long. What do you expect him to do? That's the part I always fundamentally miss. These people saying he should have run as an independent. No, that's not the political reality to which we find ourselves. I'm sorry. I don't. Yes, so I'm not that harsh towards Sanders in this regard, because I think just as a human being dealing with the situation, I think people act in certain ways. I think he acted like a person. So, as a United States Senator, what do you expect this senator to do when he's confronted with this idea of two-party system? And do you honestly believe that going third party in the last election was the way to do it? It's possible Sanders would have won, but you must understand, in Sanders' mind, which is what matters, he had 2 constraints. I can't win, which was his own constraint. That was the constraint of his own making. Now you have to be somewhat gentle on that one, because that was a constraint in everybody's own making. Like, that's not something that was unique to Sanders. And then I don't want to be rough Nader. Both of those things are devastating. As you're running, it's a constraint. But I know some of these other people would have had superhuman abilities on this. Alright, I'm gonna real life applications for your choices. Yes, that's true. Alright, I'm gonna kill this and go into another one, because I have like a few to do and I want to get through them, and I don't want to dwell too much on one particular one. Yeah. Alright, guys. Yeah. Alright, guys, if you enjoy the content, feel free to share, rate, subscribe, and of course, you can always support the Patreon. Thanks, guys. I will be right back.